Welcome back. Get ready for part 2 with Mort Fertel. He's going to tell us more about his marriage fitness program.
So stay tuned.
Here we go.
Learning to love the person you found. And love is a verb. It's not a feeling. It's something that you do. And so in the Put Love First approach, or in the Put Love First principle, are a series of practices that I'll teach you so that you can put love first, so that you can actually manifest that value in your life.
Okay.
The second is what I call give presence, P-R-E-S-E-N-C-E. And, we'll get into the details of that one when we get there. Third one is move from me to we, which is essentially a paradigm shift of learning how to see things from an us or a we perspective as opposed to the selfish perspective, which is quite fine when you're single, but will not work when you're married.
Right, right.
And the last one is kind of different in kind from the other three. It's called Save Yourself. And this is not so much what you need to do in order to succeed in your marriage, but it's what you need to refrain from doing in order to succeed in your marriage.
Okay. Interesting.
Well, I know in listening to some of the CDs initially, just a little background on Sandy and I, when we first met, we were best friends. I mean, we were pals, we hung out, we worked together, and it was probably 3 years before we had our first fight. We used to drive back and forth from New Jersey to Florida on a regular basis and never listen to the radio, just talk and BS and have a great time. Her brother always said, "What do you guys do for 20 hours in the car?" I said, "Well, we just hang out and enjoy each other's company." And then
We never even thought about it. We didn't even know the radio wasn't on.
at some point, you know, we started having other agendas, and it was focusing on building businesses and those types of things. And once we had children, and I mean, we're still friends and we're still friendly, but there's a lot of times where we, can't kind of move around each other in the house and don't even know we're there sometimes. So
yeah, you could turn into brother and sister very easily.
That's why the
or roommates, as I like to say.
Exactly.
So that's why the principles, I think, Mort, in your program had really resonated with us initially, because I think as we'll get into in further videos and as we move through the program, it's the whole concept of just really getting back to when we just used to enjoy each other's company and talk about, the sky, the birds, our goals and dreams and those types of things, which, candidly has been missing in our relationship. So.
Right, and the real, challenging question there is actually how do you do that? I mean, it's one thing to say that that's what we have to do, which we can all agree to.
Right.
But it's quite another thing to know how to get from here to there. And that's what I think you'll find in the system is really a methodology for doing it. And Mike, you made an interesting distinction between the experience you had initially in your relationship when you would drive for 20 hours and talk incessantly, and years later when maybe you had trouble figuring out what to say to each other and how to connect. And it's worth pointing out that in the beginning of a relationship, it's really quite easy. It doesn't really take much wisdom, much effort, much energy, much intelligence. As I like to say, any idiot can fall in love, and everyone does.
I'm a testament to that.
I wasn't pointing at you guys. I mean, everybody. I mean, me included, my wife included. It's a very easy, natural, spontaneous thing to do. But as we all know, that euphoric experience over the years eventually fades. And then it takes real intention to be able to recreate that connection and that closeness. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be natural and spontaneous. You're not going to fall in love. You're going to have to climb into love. And, the metaphors there are insightful because falling in love is a completely spontaneous experience. You don't have to do anything. It's just something happening to you. Climbing in love, on the other hand, you'll get to the same place, but it requires effort. It requires wisdom. It requires energy. And it's an important distinction. And people have to appreciate that if you're going to succeed in marriage long term, it's not just going to be easy all the time.
now as we start on this journey, do you want to just give a little overview of, you know, maybe our what would be entailed in our first week?
Sure. In your first week, you're going to be learning about this principle or step of putting love first, why it's so important, the effect that it'll have on your marriage, what will happen to your marriage if you don't make this paradigm shift. And then you're going to be introduced to 3 practices that will help you manifest this value, this value of put love first in your marriage. Those 3 practices are called talk charges, romantic retreats, and photo op.
Okay.
And you'll be asked in the first week to actually put into practice those 3 practices, which will help you realize this experience of putting love first.
Okay, excellent. So each week thereafter, we will introduce the topic ourselves, and at the end of the week, like we said, we will recap how the week went, any challenges we had. And I know we had spoke once before, and we talked about there being a potential if you had to rearrange one thing to a different week, that was a possibility also?
Yes, of course.
You're just kind of moving some of the things around.
A little flexible in the whole...
Sure, I mean, there's a little flexibility, sure.
Yeah, okay, great.
I mean, in my own life, and I think most people find that, you know, that we need structure. You know, we need a schedule. And I think it's helpful to feel accountable to a structure and a schedule. And of course, you know, there can be some flexibility. If you get carried away with that flexibility, eventually you don't have a structure anymore.
Right. Well, you know, that's actually what really appeals to me about your program, is because I like the way it's structured. I like the way it's into 14 weeks, because it feels like manageable little pieces. Instead of being overwhelmed with so much to do at once, I really like the way it's broken up into weeks and just a few little things each week. So
that's so important. Oak Mandino said, "Take great comfort in knowing that all great feats are accomplished one small step at a time."
Exactly.
And unless you break things down to small steps, the person could be completely overwhelmed.
Exactly. Exactly. So any last thoughts you'd like to say, Mort?
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it. We appreciate you taking the time this morning. Obviously, with 5 kids, 3 triplets, 3 triplets. Well,
A set of 3 triplets.
A set of triplets, running a business and running a successful marriage. You're busy, I'm sure. So we appreciate you taking the time, Mort.
You're very welcome. It was well worth it.
Thank you, Mort. Okay, Mort, we're done with it.
Well, there it is. The first 2 sessions with Mort Fertel. We want you guys to stay tuned over the next 14 weeks as Sandy and I embark on this exciting journey to whip our marriage back into shape.
And help you at the same time. So you can follow along, and if you'd like, sign up for his newsletter. It's on our homepage, TheRealParents.com. Just click on the Relationship Rescue tab. Stay tuned, because we will be following ourselves with reality videos for the next 14 weeks.
So over the next 14 weeks on a weekly basis, we're going to continue to move on, and periodically throughout that time, we're going to bring Mort back in, and maybe he can give us some pointers and give us an idea about what we're doing or not doing, and you know, we'll see what happens.
So stay tuned.
See you then.